Hey everyone, it's Brandon from Brandon's Baseball Cards. I hope you're all doing well. Today I'm going to be chatting with Kurt Christensen. His company is Ripping Vintage Packs. He's one of the main authenticators with vintage unopened material alongside Baseball Card Exchange. So really good person to talk to about the National. And so I'll be chatting with him, and I will go ahead and welcome him in. Hey Kurt,
Hey, Brandon. Good to see you again.
good to see you too. So, as you and I were just talking before we got on camera, the National is less than 3 months away now, which is insane when you think about it. But I just wanted to chat with you about the preparation process and what goes into getting ready for the National.
So, yes, the National for a lot of us is always the highlight of the year. Um, it's kind of funny, especially for me as mainly I farm, but obviously I do RVP. I love
Mm-hmm.
collecting unopened, buying and selling. That it's the only show I do during the year, and I kind of lose track of it sometimes because I get busy in the fall. I get busy in the spring with planting season, cattle, and pretty soon I look at the calendar and oh boy, the Nationals coming up.
Sure.
But as far as preparation for me, I'm kind of slowly prep year long.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we've got a lot of friends that show up to the show. You and me know a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
There's people I don't know, but I recognize every year that come by the RVP booth. And
Sure.
I've kind of got an idea now of what type of material and inventory I should have. This will be if my math is correct, eighth, I think, national
Mm-hmm.
I've done. You could say 8 in a row if you're not counting the year for COVID that we did not have it.
Sure.
So I'm always buying, holding some inventory as soon as the previous show is done.
Mm-hmm. And so, do you find it? Do you try to save the best stuff for the show, or what's your approach there? How do you know when something is going to be saved for the National?
Good question. Yeah, I would probably use the term the best stuff. It's not always my top end items aren't always specifically held back for the National.
Mhm.
Sometimes I know a specific person looking for something, but I would say, the best stuff that isn't necessarily a unicorn,
Mhm.
for better term. So, for example, good items that are out there that people want: 75 Tops baseball, 76 football, good 60s, 70s individual packs, some better 80s items that people like, 84 football, 83 Tops baseball,
Mhm.
those type of, staples that a lot of people are looking for.
Sure. And you bring a lot of non-sport usually as well.
I do. Non-sport is sometimes I've got more of it than others.
Mhm.
I usually try to have, yes, some very unique non-sport items. That seems to be one, and you've probably noticed too, as we look around all the various booths at the National.
Mhm.
You can find a lot of places that are going to have some '83 baseball or something like that. But the non-sport selection is can be fairly light at times.
Yeah, it does seem that it's kind of unopened is kind of a stepchild in the hobby
Definitely.
still. I get that feeling, and I'm sure you do too. Unless it's someone that gets it. Like if I were to show you a pack, you get why it was cool, but I show other people and they give me a look like, "Well, I'm glad you're happy," but they just don't. It's I
They
don't know.
don't understand.
Yeah, it still seems to be this disconnect a little
Yeah.
bit. But yeah, no, it's always fun to try to other YouTubers. I show them something, they're like, "Oh, a 76 tops pack, neat." Like they don't. Yeah, I can tell they just don't get it. But
Don't understand.
yeah, so uh, how much time do you actually get to go and explore the show floor?
Not as much as I would like,
Mhm.
but as I've done the show now several years, I've streamlined my show display, and I know you've seen me for years that you've seen it be this big, vast, big trailer, all kinds of product down to more streamlined. I've got 6, 7, 8, 9 individual display cases. Everything is perfectly packed in those cases. Everything has a price on it, and that's all I bring. For the collector and me, for that reason, because I do like to get out. And I've got some help in the booth that if I'm not there, it's easy for them to know what's going on. I don't get out as much as I'd like to, but a few times a day I will go and roam.
Sure. And how much, I know that in the past, people bring some pretty cool stuff to your booth to try to sell. What's been some some items that stand out to you that people have brought to you?
Last year, the highlights were I bought some raw 66 Topps Batman cello packs, which of course for me, that is, my favorite thing to PC. So that was very unique. Had no idea they were going to show up at the booth. So that was fun. I purchased this one I knew about ahead of time, a 57 basketball pack a few years back at the show. That was probably the most expensive item. I've had a large 80s collection, late 70s. It was probably a $25,000 late 70s, early 80s baseball box collection that showed up a few years ago. Purchased a couple of 80 basketball boxes. Most of the stuff you don't know about. I would say there's more times than not where I'm not sure what's going to show up than, I have this, lined up. I'm waiting on somebody. We do like to see product, and I brought a couple things here because I did have a deal last year. I was speaking about holding product over for the National. I have done nothing with these boxes but keep them in the safe for going on 12 months. I purchased the deal driving down to Cleveland last year. It was a pair of raw 75 mini Topps baseball wax boxes.
Oh, beautiful.
So I bought that deal. I found out about it 2 days before we left. And it worked out that it was not that far out of the way to Cleveland to pick them up. So I picked them up, but these have been sitting in the safe for a year. And so that was a deal that came through. I bought going down to the National, and I've sat them in my safe for 12 months. And I bought 2 boxes, and I'll have one of them with me for Chicago.
Oh, that's awesome. And so do you, are there things that you bring that you don't want to sell?
Not anymore.
Yeah.
I used to, but as you say, we always get smarter in our show prep and what we do. Everything that I bring with me, you sell something and a little bit of you is like, I had to sell that. But no, everything with me is, if it all sells, that's what it's there for. I will not have anything on me that I do not want to sell. And I also will not have anything on me that's priced that, well, great, it sold for, 10x, nothing like that either. Everything I think will be priced in the market, which is where I've been the last 2-3 years. And it just adds a level of convenience to the show.
Sure.
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 And I'm sure you see that, you go by people's booths, and I go there too, where, they've got a item that you want, but it's, well, I don't really want to sell it, but I've got it priced that, if somebody pays me this, I'll sell it.
Sure. Yes.
Those types of things.
Yeah. And to me, it's always obvious right away, those types of booths.
Yeah.
Where you see, oh, this person is really attached.
Yeah.
Where do you see the market right now? Is it compared to a year ago or 2 years ago with unopened?
So, from my point of view, again, I don't get out and do any other shows, so I can't speak to where was the show at on the East Coast or in in Texas or the West Coast or in Chicago a different time of year, how those shows have been. My own website, I follow eBay sales, the major auction houses. I would say the products that I have and I deal with, a lot of 70s, 80s material. I wouldn't say it's any softer than last year. I would say there's as strong, probably a little bit stronger. My website sales for that type of material have been stronger than last year. So you never quite know. I never quite know what will or won't sell at a particular show. But as far as what I'm seeing from the eBay solds and the auction houses and my own website, it sure looks like to me that demand for those 70s and 80s items are pretty steady, pretty strong.
Yeah. I tend to agree. I think we're in kind of a holding pattern. It seems like right now, like compared to the last few years, there seems to be a fairly stable market price for a lot of stuff.
Correct. If you're priced within, recent solds, not some crazy buy it now thing, but where people are auctioning off items. If you're in the market and somebody's looking for that item, it's likely going to sell.
Sure. Yeah. No. And you mentioned earlier that a lot of people will just come up to you at the show and bring you, 80 basketball boxes and amazing things. Are these people that have had contact with you previously, or are they just coming out of the woodworks? How does that work?
I would say it's close to 50-50. 2, 3, 4 weeks before the national, I usually start to get a few more emails and phone calls of people, hey, not people I know, but they're going to be attending the national and are bringing items to sell, and wondering if I'm interested. And I'm sure they're making the phone calls to everybody else that's there too. So those aren't deals that I have any lead on or anything, but it's just an opportunity for, okay, I know this item will probably be dropped by my booth at some time to make an offer, so I better have an offer in mind.
Sure.
Type of a thing. But a lot of times it's just people go to the show and it's kind of luck of the draw. They see you first, they see somebody else first, and they like your offer or they don't, and they move on to the next place.
Sure.
There's a mixed bag, but I do see an uptick of some email and phone call activity 2, 3, 4 weeks before the show.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything in particular you're looking for this year for your collection?
My collection would if there's more Batman items, I would certainly go that route. I am looking for some wax packs, Batman wax packs, so that would be there. I usually get a few items from friends, are looking for a specific item that I try to help them find. But no, my own personal list is fairly thin at the moment, which is okay.
Is there a particular Batman wax pack, or?
I'm looking for the Riddler back wax packs. So they're the yellow wrapper. So I'll have to add one of those to the PC at some point.
That's cool. Are you comfortable? I mean, you don't strike me as somebody, you're not comfortable, I should say you're not uncomfortable buying GAI packs, right? You'll buy GAI.
If I can see them in person and get a handle on it in person, that's makes me a little more comfortable.
Sure.
On the auction route or eBay, I'm going to be a little more reluctant. Then somebody hands you one in person at the national, or you pick up one from a different dealer's booth and look at it. That makes me feel a little more comfortable.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm the same. You need to see it in your hand.
Yep.
Unless Steve Hart has looked at it, or unless you've looked at it previously, because some of those packs it's a minefield with some of the, especially I think it's the late certification numbers.
Yeah,
right?
you get the late numbers. Usually the 101s you can feel a little better about.
Sure. Yeah, the GAI packs I have, I'm like, I don't make it a habit of getting them, but if it's a pack I want and it's an early run, I'll snatch it. But yeah, I'm right there with you. eBay seems to be, and there's so many sellers now on there that are just selling blatantly resealed stuff. It seems worse than ever to me. Is that your impression too?
Yeah, I don't know if I'd say it's worse than ever, but I would just say it's just always bad. So, it's been bad before and it's bad now, and I think it's going to continue to be bad. I just had in the other places, um, you can buy raw packs and raw items, and the same thing from the national. We're talking about the national. One of the things that I've seen an uptick in myself do more recently, especially the last few years, is helping other collectors go look at items at the show just to get another opinion. Somebody comes up to me and say, "Hey, so and so has a, you know, 81 tops basketball box or a 75 mini pack, not authenticated. Would you mind, looking at it?" Those type of things. I've done a lot of the last several years, and it's the odds are about 50-50. Kind of with might put eBay might be a little less than 50-50, but the same thing goes for stuff at the national. You know, you got to buy from trusted sources, or you're rolling the dice.
Yeah. Yeah, there are random dealers. I do think there's of course your booth, the Ripping Vintage Packs booth. There's the Baseball Card Exchange booth. There's unopened specific booths, but then it seems like quite a few dealers have like 5 packs or so sitting out, and those are the ones where I'm always like, okay, either all of these are bad or they're all good.
And
And
and the good deals,
yeah,
they are out there.
yeah,
We both know Mark Wiles.
yeah,
I helped Mark look at a run of 70s packs, even late 60s wax packs at
mm,
last year's show, priced very nicely, all raw, and they were all good.
really,
And it was from, just like you said, some random person that had nothing to do with unopened, and they were great. He bought them, and a few months later, they all ended up in PSA slabs.
wow,
But a lot of times, more times than not, I'm just like you. I'll go buy a dealer and I see a 76 football, pack in the corner. And hey, can I look at that? And you pick it up and nope, it ain't good.
yeah. The good thing, at least the good thing about eBay is that a lot of the fakes they're bad.
Yeah.
They're bad. If you know anything, you don't even have to be an authenticator necessarily. You can just go, "Whoa, this is," they didn't even make an effort here, with their resealing. But yeah, I think but there's the ones that scare me are sometimes the cello packs, because those seem, and we know the gentleman who a while
Yeah.
back did a whole bunch of them that were good, that were really good. And so that cellos in the wild still kind of scare me a little bit.
So the good part about the national is, there are resources there for help. Steve Hart is also very gracious with his time at the national. If you ever got a question about an item there, he'll bring it over to his booth and he'll give you his opinion. We're right there. So that's what nice about the show. I mean, there's other collectors, people we both know that are very knowledgeable in items that Mike C, Mike Honeyman. Hey, come look at this pack with me. So great resources there to hopefully not get fooled. But make no doubt about it, there's definitely bad items floating around the national floor as well.
Sure. I think the last time I went, 23, I think I brought you a 75 mini wax pack to look at, and you were very gracious. And you're like, I guess the roller marks had faded. I couldn't, but you said it seemed like a clean pack. But I really appreciated that in real time. You were able to help me, because uh, it's nice to have resources for some of this stuff, because we need the experts to take a look at a lot of this stuff. And like you said, Steve is also, he's so gracious with his time, that it's wonderful. It really is, especially how busy the show is, that people take time. So
Yeah.
thank you. to the Pack guys. Thanks for all you do.
Yes. That will be when he said how busy it is. That's going to be one of the things I'm looking forward to this year.
Sure.
The last really 3 years,
Mm-hmm.
22, 23, 24.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the shows have been incredibly well attended.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, just packed. So I'm in Chicago is people say is usually the busiest show. I'm really, is going to be the same way. I mean, show attendance is what you want to see. Obviously, like you mentioned earlier, the unopened market is, a little bit niche. Not everybody's there looking for packs, but I like to see the crowds. So I'm hoping that we have crowds again, because the last several years have been very well attended.
Sure. Yeah, I think we're in for a big year. I know it was difficult to get a hotel near the show.
Okay.
I booked the same time as I normally do, and I'm staying a mile or a mile and a
Oh
half
wow,
away because they were all booked. So if that's any indicator, we
that is
could
a
be
good
in.
indicator. Yeah. So
But did you do you have a thought about? I know some people were trying to talk about the National coming to Atlanta in the future. Do you have any thoughts on that? If that would be a viable area?
I I don't, as far as other locations.
Mhm.
I'm at a priority where I actually get a vote for these things, and the vote counts. Um, from what I've heard, speaking to dealers that I'm friends with and people who have done more shows than I have, it's kind of been universal that the shows outside of Chicago have not done particularly well. Um, Atlantic City was one of them that was referenced to not being great, even though the attendance a couple years ago was okay. There was a lot of complaints. People complained about Cleveland. Attendance was great. I'm indifferent on the different. I just don't know enough. I've done so many shows, and it seems like almost all of them have been in Chicago. I've
Mhm.
been to Atlantic City once, Cleveland twice, but then it's just been a run of Chicago, and the Chicago shows have always been great.
Mhm.
You know, I don't have enough info to pass a better judgment on that one, other than that most people say Chicago is a preferred destination. It was voted on, I think, last year by a vast majority to run Chicago 3 years in a row.
Sure.
So, I don't know if that's going to, continue or not. I think there's a new ownership at the national, or a new board or something that, some higher ups might, make that, you know, change or adjustment. But as far as dealers at the show, that's been fairly unanimous that Chicago has been a good destination.
Sure. I mean, it is a great spot. Proximity to the hotels. I mean, I think it'd be cool if it was a little bit closer to downtown, maybe. But you're still close enough. You can take an Uber if you want to, or get on the train if you want to. I think it's a great spot. I have not been to Atlantic City, and I'm not sure I care to. That seems to be the least favorite out of everybody.
Yeah, I'll be surprised. It was as far as sales at that show, we
Mhm,
did quite well.
mhm.
Um, Attendance seemed fine, though it was less than the previous Chicago show and less than last year in Cleveland. Um, but I think there was, the venue itself was fine, but I think some of the activities outside the venue, were not ideal.
Sure,
So that, and I'll be surprised if we see it back there, at least in a while.
sure. Yeah, do you have any advice for people that are their first time attending the national?
If you see something that you are interested in,
Mhm,
I would not wait. Not because it might not be there again. I mean, it could certainly be gone. I mean, I made that mistake before.
mhm,
I want something, I come back and it's gone.
mhm.
But more for the reason that a lot of times, and I'm fairly seasoned now, it is hard to find that booth again,
Yeah,
even when you know where it's at. So if you see something right away that you like, and the price is, in recent solds on that item, I mean, if that's what you're there for, to buy an item, so I'd buy it. But I wouldn't wait, because it is sometimes very hard to find that location again. You just don't usually walk right, especially if it's across the room, and you're like, well, I'll meander around, and then the show floor is so huge, and then I'll meander back and find it 5 hours later.
Yeah, and the booth numbers, I know
Oh
they're
God, yeah.
supposed to help. They do not help me. I'm just like, Kurt was by the pretzel thing, I think. I take a picture. I'm like, okay, I'll go back by this pretzel thing. You have to have a landmark because, yeah, you're right. And especially how big the Chicago show floor is now. It seems it is bigger than ever
Yeah,
before.
and if you remember from a couple years ago, it's almost two show floors. They've got
Mhm.
like a wing to the east, and then there's all that corporate-y walk-in area stuff in a wing to the other side. So it can be very difficult to meander through there and get your way back and forth. Where was that item that I wanted?
Yeah. Well, and because you were in 23, you were in a completely different location
We
from
were.
before.
Yep.
Because I remember I was like, okay, John Duffy was in a different
He
spot.
was. Yeah.
They moved a lot of people around. Did it feel more corporate to you?
Yes. Last year felt more corporate.
Yeah.
I'm curious how that's going to play out. I know there was some negative reviews on that. Some of those dealers that were backed by the corporate stuff,
Mhm.
I don't think experienced as much foot traffic as the dealers that were not back there. Um, I'm guessing it's not going to change. I'm not behind the scenes on where the money structure and the cost and revenue and expenses of the show are, but I'm guessing they need some of that, the corporate stuff for the pace and sponsorships or however that works.
Mhm.
But yes, I did see an uptick with it. The other thing, that's will be interesting to see is how the Tuesday attendance is.
Mhm.
Um, Last year was a strict rule on entry badges, early entry badges on Tuesday,
Mhm.
only for dealers. If dealers were caught handing out badges to their friends or acquaintances, or somebody just offered them a boatload of money to get them a badge, you could have lost your booth privileges. Um,
Wow.
but there were a lot of people upset with that, because, and I was one that I wouldn't necessarily say I was upset with it, but I noticed I had 0 sales on Tuesday of the National last year. That was the first time I've ever done the National not had a Tuesday sale. Usually I sell a lot of stuff on Tuesdays. Well, the only people in the building on Tuesdays were maybe that what they wanted, the actual dealers,
Mhm.
and dealer to dealer transactions were non-existent. So there you paid for early setup and nothing happened. A lot of those people that had gotten the early entry badges usually spent money. That doesn't mean that they didn't show up later in the show and spend money then, but there was definitely some more prominent full-time dealers that voiced frustration with that Tuesday entry policy, and I have no idea if it's the same or not. I'm not boisterous enough to lend my opinion, so I will be going on Tuesday and setting up, and it'll be what it is.
Sure. Sure. And so, in the past, there were people that were able to get badges and whatnot. Were there content creators that were allowed in, or was this strict? They were very strict. You're saying on Tuesday
I
last
don't
year.
remember seeing content creators either on Tuesday last year, where in years past I definitely have.
Sure.
It was, I mean, I just remember last year. There was just nobody roaming around.
Mhm.
I went and talked to some friends I have, but there was almost no transactions happening anywhere.
Jeez. Yeah, that's not good for anybody. You need to get the
So,
the
well,
traffic
so
going.
like, yes, correct. For me, who I'm not a full time dealer, it's the only show I do.
Yeah.
I was fine, but a lot of those other people, I heard several people tell me, "Well, why did I come so early? I could have spent another day with my family, or I could have spent another day out, buying a
Mhm.
collection, or why am I here?" what? So there was some frustration. I know, for me it was indifferent. It was just fine.
Sure.
But I know there's a lot of people that's a full time gig for them, and I could see the frustration there.
Oh yeah. How long does it take you when you get back to recover from the show, just physically and everything? Because it's exhausting. I would
It
imagine
is it is exhausting. What's exhausting for me is it's out of my normal routine on the farm. I mean, I do way more labor on my feet stuff on the farm, but like mentally, I get exhausted from the show. It's just constantly running numbers in your head. I'm trying to buy this. I'm trying to sell this. Hey, will you take $100 for this instead of 120? Or how about if I buy these 5 items? What will you do? It's nonstop of that I would say it's a couple weeks. I come home and I throw the stuff back in the safe, and I don't look at stuff again for a few weeks.
Sure.
So it does take a recovery period. The prep I enjoy the prep as I got more streamlined, where I'll start here. We just got finished with spring planting on the farm. I've got another month or so of getting some cattle squared away. But I'll spend slowly June and early July building my display cases, pricing stuff out, and I really enjoy that. I said, and my prep is very streamlined, and I enjoy that aspect of it. But yeah, when the show is done, it's I need a break.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. I mean, and I just go as someone who has just seen the booths. It's exhausting. But when you count all the mental labor that goes into being a dealer, salute to all you guys, because I don't know if I have the patience for it, because I think it's a lot of.
I hear you, and I'm not sure how some of the people, they travel week to week, show to show, all over the country, and I don't know how they do it.
Sure.
I definitely could not. There are other shows that I could make in the late fall, early winter, when I'm, have more time on the farm, and I just don't have any ambition. I mean, it's just, I don't know if it'd be fun. Like, the National is very fun. I look forward to it. You get built up all year, and it's incredibly fun. But if I had to do that 5 or 6 other times, I don't know.
Sure.
I think that would take some of the nostalgia and fun and enjoyment out of it for me.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. So we won't see RVP at the East Coast National anytime soon.
I do not think that's in the works.
Fair enough.
I even got shows. I mean, they're obviously not very big, but we have local shows. There's shows in Spencer, Iowa. Sioux Falls, South Dakota is only a couple hours from me. Des Moines, and I've just said no. And I get asked a lot, and I've had the Des Moines show has asked me a couple times just to come in authenticate items, for the weekend, and would I enjoy it? I probably would, but I just like I like getting geared up for the National. I like keeping RVP in the hobby business role, where it's very enjoyable and very fun for me, and I just I don't have a lot of ambition to take it away from the hobby enjoyment.
Sure. Will you be authenticating at the National this year?
I will not. I did that. I did that a 2 shows in a row, and we actually did quite well. We authenticated a lot of items, but it was exhausting, and it was just like I was talking. I did not get time to talk to my friends and people that I normally see. I didn't have time to roam the show, and it was just took too much time. And part of the National enjoyment for me is being the collector as well. That's why my display is more streamlined, and I want to enjoy the week and not, have to do so much for lack of a better term. I know that's not the answer that some people would like to hear, but
Well,
that's how it is.
Sure, and you can always you're authenticating through the mail, so people can send you boxes.
Correct.
And I mean, I see it all the time. I saw some cool Ninja Turtle. Justin had.
Yeah.
He had some really nice
Those
non-XL.
Ninja Turtle boxes were mint. They were beautiful. And a non-sport fan of me, man, I love those.
Oh yeah, yeah, you can't beat the artwork. It's so cool. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat, Kurt. And maybe we can meet up and get a beer at the National.
Yes, would love that. And that is part of the enjoyment of the National. So
Yeah.
we got to talk to the friends and hang out and have a good time. And that is be what the RVP booth will do. A lot of our friends and people we know, everybody's welcome to come to the booth and just talk, hang out. We do. If nobody wants to buy something, that's just fine. We're there for the enjoyment of the week as well.
Well, I pretty sure I'll be buying something from you this year, but that's most years. But yeah, well, thanks again. And everybody check out the RVP booth at the National. And also it's rippingvintagepacks.com, right, Kurt?
That is correct.
And thanks again. And everybody keep collecting vintage and baseball. Have a great rest of the week.
Yep, we'll see you, Brandon.
See ya.